Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. J.C. Bakker and Sons is a nursery that's been around a very long time. They're local. They're in St. Catharines. And when a nursery goes and adds to their lineup, it has to be a plant that they know they can sell, so there has to be a demand for it. If they're going to make a commitment to the long-term production of these plants, it has to be a plant that's going to stand up and the demand for it is going to continue. There's no sense in growing a plant for 5-6 years and find out there's no market for it. So it has to have something about it that is going to make it a plant that cities and customers are going to want for a long time, particularly in a nursery that grows trees. Trees are a long-term proposition, and so when you get a nursery that makes commitment to trees and to shrubs and evergreens, etc., then you know that these trees have got to be particularly good. I mean, roses we can turn around, and J.C. Bakker is known for their roses, so we can't say no, they don't grow great roses. They grow great roses because, again, garden centers are going to get them back again. They're going to complain bitterly, and they're never going to buy them from you again. So a good way of knowing is that if it keeps going and keeps going, and nurseries keep growing it, there's got to be a reason. So J.C. Bakker has added some new introductions for 2014. And they have done some maples. Now, the maples are maples that even, let's put it this way, the old varieties were around when I went to school, but they've been improved, okay? The first one is flame maple. Now, flame maple is actually Acer janella. It's a shrub maple. It's tougher than nails. We're talking zone 2 here. That's almost the Arctic Circle, okay? Almost. So if you want one to survive the polar vortex, this would be the one, right? But this is the variety flame. Why flame? Because it's actually a seed-selected plant with better fall color. So in other words, it's got a good form, good branching, and then they go and they continue to propagate it and then take the seed from it in order to produce a stable variety called flame. And so this one is that. It's going to be hardy to zone 2. Its height's only 20 feet, but it spreads 20 feet. And it doesn't look like your typical maple leaf. Okay, so don't be surprised if people go, what kind of tree is that? The next one is actually a Japanese maple variety. It's Orangeola. Now, Orangeola is an interesting Acer. Orangeola has orange-colored leaves that turn a rich red-green in the summertime. Then in the fall, the leaves and the fall color is an orange-red. So it's always in color. It's going to be hardy to zone 5. It's going to be one of those mop head types. It's going to be 10 feet high and 8 feet across. So it's a cut leaf Japanese maple and more of a mound. But it does have a tendency to develop a small stalk in great age. The next one is one that most people have never seen and don't recognize when they do, and that's Pseudoplatanus. Now, Acer Pseudoplatanus is a group of maples that are very well known in Europe, but this one is Tonpetti. It's going to be called Regal Petticoat Maple. Okay, don't know why. Absolutely no idea. It is an interesting one in the fact that in the spring, the new growth comes out, and it almost looks like the flower buds starting of bird of paradise. Now, don't ask, okay? It's very unusual. It's got those reddy colors, those yellow colors as they're breaking out, which the new growth also has a tendency to go and show. But its fall color is also great. Why would you grow this particular one? Well, you got that interesting color in the spring. In the summer, it's got these dark glossy green leaf on top with a royal purple underneath. Okay, so it's interesting. It's colorful. In the wind, you're going to get that sort of green and purple look and flash. But this particular maple will grow well on calcareous soils. That means in the Niagara area where we have lots of limestone, calcifer, all the calciums, okay? Now, that's great, but it is also resistant to tar spot, which is that lovely black spot we get on the maples around here all the time. It is also salt resistant or tolerant, which means that it's going to do well against the spray from the salt on the road. So it might be a pretty good street tree where large street trees are acceptable. Height's 40 feet, spreads 30 feet, hardy to zone 4. The next one is Acer rubrum, which is red maple. This is the variety Armstrong. And one of the great things about this one is a lot of people want this one for street trees and for small areas because it produces a very tall, narrow plant. It's going to be 45 feet high, but it's only 15 feet across. Hardy to zone 4. It's so nice and tall and narrow that this is the reason it's going to do it. It also has a nice fall color in the yellows and the oranges, okay? Like most of the rubrums, the red maples, when you go up north and you see a maple that's all red, those are the native red maples. Another one called Frank Jr. is another red maple, Acer rubrum Frank Jr. It's hardy to zone 5, 45 feet high and 30 feet across. This one is going to be a little more upright and broadly pyramidal. Okay, so it's sort of a broad pyramidal in shape, which makes it a little better than the rounded Norway maple types for doing large street trees. But it's a little nicer to look at. Being a red maple, the texture is a little finer because the leaves are a little smaller. And it's got a faster growth than most of the red maples, which is a good thing. Tartaricum maple. Now, Tartaricum was one of the maples that we never really studied. It was in the books. And they said, yeah, it's a native maple. You can, it's okay, you study it if you want, but you'll probably never get to see it. The new one called Gar Ann, okay? It's got really showy red samaras. That's the seeds. And they contrast against the green summer foliage. So it's really a nice little tree. Hardy to zone 3, which means it's a nice maple to grow. The leaves do have a tendency to look a little bit more like maples than the Janella. And the plant is hardy to zone 3. Height is 20 and 24 feet across. So some decent maples when people are saying, let's get rid of all the Norway maple varieties. They're all weed trees. They're all susceptible to tree mildew and tar spot. So let's get rid of them. The next one is only for people with large estates. And I say that because a lot of parks and municipalities will put them into parks. This is a Katsura. Now, Katsura is also a tree that's very susceptible to the weed killer 2,4-D. So you have to keep all your weed killers away from it. And I mean drift and even evaporation, if you are getting close, will actually hurt this tree. Now, its fall color is bright yellow. The leaves, if you know Katsura, is very, very heart-shaped. Its fall color is beautiful yellow, okay? Now, this one is known as Amazing Grace. Okay, love the name, okay? But the fall color also has yellow, a little bit of pink, and a little orange red in it. Why did we say this one has to be for parks, municipalities, etc.? Because it's a weeping one, which means it mounds. Branches will mount, and then they come up and they will mound. And you get a very sort of mounded haystack, which is very irregular. So you'll have a mound over here and a mound over there, and then the big central mound where the main leader is. So it's an unusual looking sort of ghostly type of tree. And hardy to zone 5, it's got a height of 30 feet and 20 feet across, and it needs the full 20. Okay. Oaks. As you may or may not know, if you've listened to me over the years, a lot of the English oaks are actually noxious weeds. They seed themselves, they come up everywhere, etc. You'll see them. They're usually the ones that you see are going to be the pyramidals, the pyramidal English oak, and people plant them close to the house, etc., not knowing that after a while, the oak is going to be, that's the largest one I've ever seen, was a good 60 feet tall. And at 60 feet and up near your house, that's not what you would call the most aesthetic of landscapings. Now, the plant in the tree is an oak. It's not coming down, but it's a little big up in your foundation planting. Hardy to zone 4, this one. This one is called Crimson Spire Oak. It is actually a cross between two different oaks, okay? So from two different families. It's got the dark green, mildew-resistant foliage of one parent. It's got the reddish fall color of the other. And it's got the fastigiate, in other words, very upright, sort of question, exclamation mark of the English pyramidal oaks. Hardy to zone 4, only 45 feet tall and 15 feet across. What do you think? Yeah, okay. Definitely not one you're going to put into a small condo garden. Here's one, and I used to sell Russian mountain ash. Russian mountain ash used to be the mountain ash to plant because the berries were red. You know how you see the mountain ash or the rowan trees with all the orange berries in the fall? Okay, and of course, what's going on is they're being taken out by fire blight. Okay, so they're not being used as much anymore, but there is one that they are or feel that it's worth the risk against fire blight. Hardy to zone 2, to be honest, that's very good. 35 feet high and 20 feet across. Why do you want this one? Okay, the branches are a little more upright in their habit, symmetrical, because mountain ash is very irregular. It's a weedy, wild branch tree. But the fruit is red. Okay, not orange, it's red. And much better. The dark green foliage has a silvery green underside. So you got the green on the top, silvery green on the bottom, and of course, the nice red fruit. Nice shape, sort of a more tight, symmetrical branching. Very pretty. Okay. There's a few new 2014 introductions by J.C. Bakker that are not trees. Some of these have been around a while, and that means that they've been shown to be predictable. to grow, to survive, be great in the garden. And here's one, which I have not seen yet. Berberis terra. Now, this one is going to be called Emerald Carousel Barberry. Now, most people do not like barberry because of the thorns. And yeah, they're thorny, right? Has the dark green foliage throughout the growing season. The leaves are an oval. They turn scarlet in the fall. They have clusters of yellow flowers which hang down below the branches in mid-spring. And the fruit is a nice showy red. Zone 4, the height is 5 feet and 6 feet across. Maybe. Okay, maybe they're getting to the point where there's some nice ones. Hydrangeas, there's always a million of them, but they have done the first edition and the endless summer ones. These are groups of hydrangeas. Twist and Shout is one. It's been around a while. It's going to be hardy to zone 4. The nice thing about this is it's a lace cap. It's a deep pink centers. And of course, you get a little bit of the periwinkle blue in the center, depending on the pH of the soil. So make it a little more acidic and you'll get more of the blues, okay? We should play a little blues music here. But anyways, then there is also a new one that I'm not familiar with called Bloomstruck. Bloomstruck is a hydrangea that is your ball type. It is a macrophylla. And it's going to have these huge flower heads, 3.5 to 5 inches across. Of course, the nice deep pink, or you get the violet and the blue or the striking purple on these ones because of the pH of the soil. Hardy to zone 4, only 4 feet high and 5 feet across. That sounds good. There's one, and this one is in the group that I'm not particularly a fan of, but they're getting better. And this is a paniculata hydrangea. These are the cone-shaped ones. It's first edition called Strawberry Sundae. And it's really well named. The flowers emerge in white in midsummer, change to pink, and finally to strawberry red. It sort of gives you a change of color throughout the sort of midsummer on. And holds well into the fall, that color. Hardy to zone 4. Height is 5 feet, spreads 4 feet. Probably going to be a good one, but we'll have to see. Here's one I'd like to grow, okay? And just because I'm a doubting Thomas when it comes to this particular plant. It's Buxus microphylla Golden Triumph, which is Golden Triumph boxwood. Why do I want to grow it? Because it's a golden yellow margined boxwood. Okay, so it's an evergreen. That means it's golden yellow. It looks like golden yellow euonymus, but it's boxwood. It does well in the heat, okay, which is great in our summers around here. But it's hardy to zone 3. It's got a height of 3 foot and a spread of 4. It's a slow grower, so it means it's a great permanent foundation plant. But my question is it's hardy to zone 3, but that variegation just makes me sort of cringe and go, I don't believe it. We'll see. But I thought I'd throw it in there. There's a rhododendron. As you all know, I'm a big fan of rhododendrons called Edith Bosley. It is Purple Splendor, basically super improved. Very hardy to zone 5, 4 foot by 4 foot. So it's a fairly compact but fairly large rhododendron. The flowers are an improved Purple Splendor, so they're much darker purple. Okay, nice tight heads. And of course, the purple-black throat speckles. Okay, so all of that makes this one, and the good hardiness makes this the rhododendron. If you're looking, stop looking at Purple Splendor and go to this one. There is a Daphne Burkwoodi. This has always been considered a tender Daphne, but I have seen them grow well, and I've yet to figure out the trick to growing these. It is a neat plant, hardy to zone 3, 3 foot by 3 foot. It's got a wide green margin and narrow yellow centers. It's a little softer, a little not quite as stiff in the plant and the branching. So it's kind of nice with a nice sort of long, low form. It's a Daphne that I think you might want to try. Again, it's hardy to zone 3. So let's try this one. But to be honest, I've had a hard time with this one. There's a wisteria. This one is called Summer Cascade. If you're looking in books, some of them will also call it Betty Matthews. It has been around for a while. It blooms in June on new growth. Beauty, right? Again, long showy racemes. That means lots of long flowers. They open up in the shade of dark lavender before they fade. They're hardy to zone 4. 20-foot spread and 8-foot spread. Well, we all know that wisteria, being a vine, can get out of hand. Well, so will this one. So there you go. They do have a couple of roses that are new this year. There is one that I think I would like you to try. And it's called white licorice. It's a white. It's got a little bit of a tinge, like a creamy yellow in the center. It's fragrant, which I do like. 3 foot by 3 foot. It makes a nice little bouquet of flowers. Again, nicely shaped buds, etc. And dark green leaves. Now, why do I sort of say you should try this one being a white? Well, we never have really great whites often in a garden. But the fragrance on it is quite strong. I said strong, okay? But it smells like sweet licorice and lemon. Right there. Okay. There's one that I think we can try. If you're going to start growing apples, remember that it is important that you be able to look after them. And later on in this month, you'll see that I do a podcast on a book called, and it's brand new from 2013, What's Wrong with My Fruit Garden? And it covers apples and their care that we can actually do here in Ontario under a total pesticide ban. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.